Hello and welcome to another episode of On the Topic. This week I'm chowing down on some Black Forest Gatto. I'm Alex.
And I am ruling the underworld of the sea. I'm Dan.
And this week we are continuing our On the Go, aren't we, Dan? And we are talking about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever.
We are.
We're going to give it is a spoilerific review. So the last one wasn't. If you haven't heard that, go give it a listen. It's in the description below. There's no excuse. But in there gives you our thoughts on what the film was like, what we wanted it as we were walking into cinema, and as we were walking home as usual, what our thoughts were, spoiler free. But this one, we actually go into detail. So if you haven't seen the film and you don't want spoilers, stop it here. That's fine. Come back to us. But go watch the film. It should be on, I guess this is going to be poorly time-stamped, but no doubt at some point you listen to this, it's on Disney Plus anyway, so you can stream it from there. Go give it a watch and then come back and participate with us on the sofa this week. But before we get to that, Dan and listener, Dan, what have you been up to since you last spoke? Since last week, what have you been up to?
What have I been doing? So I've started watching Manifest Season 4 on Netflix. So I've had a bit of time to myself. Found it a bit slow so far, but it is starting to pick up. I have also been watching, or I started watching a documentary on Netflix called Pepsi, Where's My Jet? Now, I mean, this shows how old I am. I remember in the 90s, Pepsi had this advert, and it was all about collecting tokens.
Oh, yeah.
So with these tokens, you would cash them in with Pepsi, and you get things like a hat, T-shirt, etc. But in this advert, no small print at the end of it. If you get 7 million of these tokens, you get a jet. Someone fucked up there.
Yeah.
Someone should have put some small print in, because there is no way they're giving you a jet for 7 million tokens.
Well, I guess they banked on no one actually having that many tokens, but obviously, I guess the premise of this is someone actually does that.
Yes. So I've already watched the first episode. There's 4 parts, but they do plot to try and get this 7 million tokens because they want this jet. And then, I mean, what do you do with a jet?
Exactly.
If you can't fly it, what is the purpose of this jet that can only take one person in it?
Where are you going to store it, Dan? Your back garden?
Quite.
Yeah.
Where are you going to stick this bad boy? Who knows? And lastly, I've been started watching Limitless with Chris Hemsworth on Disney Plus.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Phenomenal. First episode, he tries to combat stress. So what the whole purpose of this series is that, you know, he wants to try and be healthier mentally and physically. And in this first episode, he has to walk across a crane of the tallest building in Australia. And it looks terrifying. It literally looks terrifying. And they put him through like a series of exercises in this build up to doing the event. And I'll tell you what, I wouldn't do half of it. You know, they put him in a training centre with firemen and firewomen. And he's got to put fire out. He's got to try and, you know, learn breathing exercises to get his heart rate down so he's not stressed out. And I don't want to ruin it for people, but he obviously does it. But there's this wonderful moment where he stood on the crane. He gets about halfway across. He stops, closes his eyes, and it's almost like he's just there in the moment. Puts his arms out. I mean, he's obviously harnessed and everything. You know, he's not just walking there like blind. But
still, it's pretty nerve-wracking, I'm sure.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I won't do it. But that said, I might have to next year, Alex.
What?
Not on a building that tall. So my other half got free tickets to, you know, the Brighton 360.
I don't.
I suppose it's like their version of the Spinnaker Tower, but it literally is like a pole and it's like a little donut that goes up. So she got tickets to do a walk on top of the donut at full height.
No way.
And you walk around it, yeah. So she got 2 tickets, thinking she was only going to get 1. So I might have to do it with her, Alex. I'm bricking it.
Yeah, we better be watching that program and getting your training on.
Yep, I'll be doing the breathing for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and hold that for 4 seconds, and then repeat.
Beautiful.
Or I'll just be shitting myself. So we'll see.
Mm.
But Alex, happy belated birthday.
Oh yeah, thanks, mate.
What have you been doing?
Yeah, celebrating. As I say, eating my favourite confectionery cake, which is Black Forest Gatto. I love the stuff. It's the quintessential sweet tooth selection. And yeah, just basically enjoying myself. What else? Oh, and on Netflix, watching Wednesday, Dan.
A lot of hype around this.
Yeah, it's very, very good. The best way I could describe it to you and listener, if I haven't seen it, is a darker version of Harry Potter. So I'm not spoiling it in terms of setting up the premise. But Wednesday is with the rest of the Addams family, and the show is focusing on her. And through various funny, dark means or reasons, and it becomes very apparent in the first 20 seconds. It's a great opening to the show, tonally, but also it's dark comedy. She has to go to a boarding school. And this boarding school is effectively it's called a school for outcasts. Nevermore, I think it's called. And it's effectively Harry Potter. So when Harry goes to Hogwarts, it's similar to Wednesday going to this school. And it's got those vibes, and there's secret societies and the strange goings on, and there's interesting teachers. And it's really, really good. And the backstory is there's an overarching kind of theme running through it, but it's a really great premise, and it's very well acted, very well cast. To say storyline, the writing is phenomenal. And on the cast, Wednesday's played by Jenna Ortega. She is quality. She's so talented, Dan. She looks the part, plays the part, deadpan all the time. It's fantastic. So I've enjoyed it. And each episode's about 48, 50 minutes. So it's quite meaty. But they're individual stories, but with an overarching narrative running through it. So it keeps you hooked. It's really good. So I can't really say much more without spoiling it. But this is definitely one of the hits to come out of the Netflix originals. And I think they've done fantastically. So definitely get on that when you can, Dan, because it's a great watch.
I think I will. So it's me and the missus. We've seen the hype train. I think you've just sold it to me.
Yeah,
more reason to dive in.
Exactly. I mean, that's the thing, though. We talked about over the years, Dan, haven't we? About hype and just how like detrimental it is for you jumping, not you, us, people jumping on. Because if everyone raves about it, you're like, well, I don't want to watch it. I don't know what that is. Maybe it's because we don't want to be told to do something, or we don't want to be sheep. And I'm probably not helping myself here, but this is legitimately something that is worthwhile watching. You know, it's not like the next Game of Thrones, you know, whatever it is, or Dragons, which I haven't seen. I need to. This is something different. It's refreshing, but it's familiar, because if you've grown up with watching any of the Addams Family stuff, and I was not quite, you know, the 50s, 60s black and white, but there was, I think, a 90s one. Do you remember watching that, Dan? The TV program, I think it was on Channel 4 back in the day in the UK.
Yeah, vaguely.
Yeah. I think it was on Sunday mornings or something. It's very familiar, very comforting, but it's something entirely new and different because of it's not R rating, but it's not vulgar and it's not bloody, but it's definitely for an adult kind of audience. It gives something different. So anyway, I'm going to shut up. Spent too much time talking about it. If you're not hooked now, you're not interested, you're not going to watch it, but I'd recommend it. So go do that. Otherwise, Dan, I think that's it for me, really. Well, you got me War of the Realms, so thank you very much for that. Lovely birthday present. So I'll be able to give some comments on that graphic novel in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, otherwise, just celebrating the old birthday.
Good stuff. Before we actually kick off into a Wakanda Forever review, it's my favourite time of the year. So Spotify do the Spotify
Oh
Wrapped.
yeah, yeah.
I'm not sure where I stand on this. So they break
Oh,
down your morning, afternoon, and evening. Uh, I suppose like one of those emotional things. My morning started with Rebellious Angst, Sad Boy.
okay.
Um,
For my naivety, and perhaps for some of our listeners, is that a band? Is that a genre? Is that like something made up? What is that?
it's something made up, I
Oh,
guess.
right.
It's
It's
not
like a
something I listen
summary of the kind of music that you may listen to, I guess, they put a label on.
to. Yeah. My afternoons. Well, it doesn't matter. It's the slide skipped, but yeah, rebellious, angsty, sad boy. I don't know what that is.
Do they
If
not did they not tell you like this is what is made up of in the morning
no,
to be rebellious and sad?
no. Oh, here we go. My afternoon was mayhem, reminisce, and heartache.
Oh,
And
deep.
my yeah, and my evening, nostalgia, feel good, good vibes.
That is interesting. But
Hmm.
a good way to end it up. You wouldn't want to end the day with being sad and angsty, would you?
No, but no, I love these Spotify Wraps every year. Really enjoyable. But yeah, no, that's it really. I just thought I'd throw it out there. Apparently,
Why
I'm a
not?
sad, angsty, rebellious boy, or whatever I just said it was.
I've always called you those things, Dan. So I'm glad someone else could see it. If I'm honest.
And it's all come from an AI through Spotify. Love it.
So there's no lies. It's all the truth.
It is all truth.
Mm.
We'd better dust off the old klaxon anyway, Alex.
Oh yeah, crap. Yeah. Um, guys, we've already talked about this before, so we're 10 minutes in now. Um, if you don't want spoilers, pause it, turn around, go watch it, come back. But otherwise, here's the old faithful, the spoiler klaxon warning. Here we go.
I feel like
There
it's
she
been a
is.
while since we've heard the old klaxon.
It's a beauty. It's a beauty for the ears. Dan, Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. What did I say? The 30th
It
MCU.
was the 30th. I can confirm that you
That's
were
nuts,
correct
isn't it?
last week. It
There
is
you go.
nuts.
I talk a lot of crap, but that's one thing I was spot on with. Um, Kick us off. Start us off. What was this all about? What's the deal? What's the dealio?
Let's do a bit of the background.
Mm.
So, ideas for a sequel actually began after the release of Black Panther in February 2018. It was that long ago.
Mm.
Ryan Coogler negotiated to return as director in the following months, and Marvel Studios officially confirmed the sequel's development in mid 2019. Pre-pandemic, simpler time. Plans for the film changed in August 2020 when Black Panther star Chadwick Boseman sadly passed away from colon cancer. And Marvel Studios chose not to recast his role of T'Challa. Other main cast members from the first film were confirmed to return by that November, and the title was announced in May 2021. Production initially took place from late June to early November 2021 in Atlanta and Brunswick, Georgia, as well as around Massachusetts, before a hiatus, which I think we've talked about before in a previous episode, Alex, where Letitia Wright had to recover from an injury sustained from filming. Production resumed in mid-January 2022 and wrapped in late March in Puerto Rico. As you mentioned, Alex, this is the 30th film in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And in the film, the leaders of Wakanda fight to protect their nation in the wake of King T'Challa's death. Now, it's directed by Ryan Coogler. Screenplay is by Ryan Coogler and Joe Robert Cole. Story is written by Ryan Coogler. I mean, the poor bloke had a bit of a mission after having to rewrite it. I think we'll talk about that a little bit towards the end. Production by Big Kev Feige and Nate Moore. Now, it was all done on a budget of $250 million. And at present, in the box office, it has hit $680.9 million.
Oof.
So, I mean, when I did my notes, Alex, it was only at 601 million, and that was only 5 days ago at the time of recording.
Small change.
And it is shot up since. What about the cast, Alex? What we got?
So we have Letitia Wright, of course, as the main person, the surviving members it ends up being, spoiler alert, of the family, Shuri. Lupita Nyong'o as Nakia. We've got Danai Gurira as Okoye.
Yep.
There we go. Got there. I'm doing a Dan. I need to put my teeth in.
Set you up here, haven't I?
Indeed, I know. Winston Duke as M'Baku. There we go. We've got Florence Kasumba as Ayo. They're the standards. Then we've got some new faces, Dan. So we've got Dominique Thorne as Riri Williams.
Yeah.
I've got some thoughts on her interpretation of that character shortly. We've got Michaela Coel as Anika. We've got Tenok Huerta and Mia. I haven't done that right, but I don't know how to pronounce it. I'm so sorry, guys.
I want to say it's like Miyaya. It's got to be a sign J. I don't know.
But Tenok nonetheless stars as Namor, which phenomenal. Spot on casting. Yeah, great. Can't rate enough. They've got Martin Freeman returning as Everett Ross. You've got Julia Louis Dreyfus. Now she is playing Valentina Allegra de Fontaine. We have seen her before in Falcon and Winter Soldier, Dan, right? And then again at Black Widow.
Yep.
And then we've got Angela Bassett's Ramonda. We have got others. Michael B. Jordan makes an appearance in the spirit realm and others. But all-star cast, you've got some really memorable, familiar faces that make it back from the first outing, thankfully. Sadly, we also are missing one big individual, Chadwick Boseman. And then some new faces in terms of Namor and those looking to take the vibranium off these two different countries or superpowers of Earth.
Yeah, I've got some beef around around Martin Freeman as Everett Ross, but look, that we'll save that to the final thoughts. It's not his fault, bless him. But yeah, we'll talk about that in a minute. But let's talk a bit about the plot.
Yeah, let's do it.
I mean, if the first 20 minutes don't get you, the last 5 will.
Oh yeah.
So we open with T'Challa, King of Wakanda, who's dying from an illness which his sister Shuri believes can be cured by the heart-shaped herb. Now, Shuri's attempting to synthetically recreate the herb after it was destroyed by Killmonger in Black Panther 1, but fails to do so before T'Challa succumbs to his death, which is... it's
a really powerful moment, isn't it? Because the AI, the computer, announces that T'Challa his heart's no longer beating, because she said, what's his beats per minute? And the mother walks in. She obviously announces his passing, and it's silent, isn't it? It's you can hear a pin drop. And it's getting me down, Dan, as we talk about it. It's really quite emotive and powerful, and she's trying everything she can very desperately. It's almost like it's evocative of, I don't know, like Titanic. I don't know how I'm going here, Dan, but I am. When the ship is sinking and you've got the people on deck playing that lovely, beautiful music, we've got Shuri frantically trying all these different combinations in real time to make this herb and synthesize it, and then to try and run to rush to give it to her brother in the last ditch attempt, and it's too late. And it hits you like a sledgehammer. And they never explain, at least in the film, as far as I'm aware, what he died of.
They just said it was a mysterious illness.
Yeah,
they never really confirmed anything really of what he died of.
Which I think that's an interesting way of doing it, because I think why should they put a label on it? We all know what happened to him in real life. You know, it's very, very sad and very tragic and very well covered in the media. I think by and large quite tasteful to some extent. I don't think anyone's making money off any of those stories, or hopefully not. I think it's all in quite good taste and great awareness, I guess, for that illness. Why should they make up some fictitious, illness or some half-assed attempt to try and get him assassinated? You don't need to. And I think because of that, I think they did that scene and the passing of Chadwick really quite poetic and quite trying to think of the word. Did injustice, I think. Because I think to do it anything other than what they did would be quite distasteful. Does that make any sense, Dan?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. I mean, of course, that silence carries over to where you get the Marvel Studios.
Yeah. The intro roll credits.
Roll credits, but it's pure silence. But you get like a purple background. It's just like loads of imagery.
It's a montage, isn't it?
I can feel myself like starting to well up again. Jesus, we'll talk more about that in a minute, especially the last 5 minutes.
Mm.
And of course, then after that, you get T'Challa's funeral. Again, I mean, how I didn't cry at this moment. It's so powerful.
Yeah,
so powerful. But after all the funeral and the loss of T'Challa, we skip 1 year. Where Wakanda is under pressure from other nations to share their vibranium, with some parties attempting to steal it by force. Now,
really good opening scene. This, I loved it.
I want you to hold on to that thought, listener, because we're going to come full circle when we get to the end of this film.
Okay.
Now, Queen Ramonda implores Shuri to continue her research on the heart-shaped herb, hoping to create a new Black Panther that will defend Wakanda, but she refuses due to her belief that the Black Panther is a figure of the past. Now we're in the Atlantic Ocean, where the CIA and US Navy SEALs utilize a vibranium detecting machine to locate a potential vibranium deposit underwater.
Say what? Because vibranium up until this point is only in Wakanda.
It sounds like you got some beef with that. I mean, it is sort of briefly explained later on, isn't it?
I mean, should we go there now in fear of forgetting?
Let's do it.
We put a lot of pins in this. Dan, my main problem with that is, why have we not heard about this before? And why is Namor waiting till now to wage war or potential wage war against the surface dwellers, as he calls them, when he's got access to all this power and this strength and the element of surprise?
Yeah.
And you know, vibranium's been around for a while, and as we know, we had Howard Stark trawling the depths of the seas. Admittedly, it was in the North Atlantic, looking for Steve when he was on ice. But why would he have not continued to map the sea floor? I don't know. There's a lot of questions with that. Vibranium, I'm pretty sure, isn't just in South America, and I guess near the African continent, where Wakanda is based in. I struggle to see how it hasn't been found. It gives off a particular power signature. Howard made shields out the bloody stuff. He would be looking for it, and then Tony afterwards. I just don't know. I don't buy it.
Because wasn't it explained that, you know, vibranium came from space on a meteorite, and they was like, oh, maybe there was a second one, and it went into the sea. You've sort of like slightly glossed over it a little bit, you know.
And that was the whole premise, wasn't it? I could even see it in my mind's eye now of the first Black Panther, where they've got the scene is being told like almost like putty as it's coming in and out of the ground. And yeah, you're right. The meteorite strikes the earth, and then these plants grow and civilization crops up, and it's all about the tale of Wakanda. And it just, it's a little bit too convenient. I don't know what the alternative is, guys. By the way, I'm not here to challenge a better idea. I just think that's weak. But it is what it is.
It is. But anyway, this expedition is attacked and killed by a group of blue-skinned, water-breathing superhumans led by Namor, with the CIA believing Wakanda to be responsible. I mean, when Wakandans start, you know, swimming and breathing underwater, CIA are a bit dumb. But here we are.
And that I think that scene was great because it flicks, doesn't it, between I guess a UN council meeting, um, and Queen Ramonda is there, and they come in, and she looks very defiant, and I think they're inferring, I think they even have it that the chair of the UN, the French are taken to task in this scene because it turns out it's the French special forces who end up trying to steal the vibranium from an outreach center. And the whole world to see, she effectively says, I believe these people are yours. And this is exactly the reason why we don't share technology. So do one. But it's obviously eloquently put and it's very strong and she still has the upper hand. And it just goes to show just how that character has come on. She's had to adopt this leader now of Wakanda with her son obviously passing away, but while still facing really strict and stringent challenge from the world who believe that she should be sharing their technology with them. It's a really great scene, very powerful and affirming, I think, for that character. I really enjoyed it. It's really, really, really smart way to put the backdrop of where that I guess they refer to as superpower, but where those people really are at the beginning of this film. It's great.
Oh, it's so good. Now, somehow Namor bypasses Wakanda's advanced security and confronts Ramonda and Shuri. Blaming Wakanda for the vibranium race, he gives them an ultimatum, which is to deliver them the scientists responsible for the vibranium detection machine, or he's going to attack Wakanda. So Shuri and Okoye learn from CIA agent Everett Ross that the scientist in question is an MIT student by the name of Riri Williams, and they go to the university to confront her. The group is pursued by the FBI and then by Namor's warriors, who defeat Okoye before taking Shuri and Riri underwater to meet Namor. Really good fight scene.
Yeah. I think.
You think?
I think the ambush on the bridge was very well choreographed. I liked the use of the technology of the water bombs, if that's a thing.
It's clever.
I don't know what they call them. It's very, very clever.
Like grenades, aren't they? But they explode into like waves of water.
Very, very, very clever. Are they called Atlanteans? I don't know what the term is of the people from.
I think you are right. I think they are like Atlanteans.
In the comics they are, but I think they're called something else in this. But anyway, we'll have to look at it in a sec. But yeah, I thought it's well put together. I guess it's reminiscent of the chase scene in the first film where they're chasing Claw and he's in the cars and that's a really enjoyable scene, of course, with Shuri who's taking control of the car, but back from Wakanda. You've got T'Challa jumping from car to car. This is similar, and you've got Riri shooting out, from fire, and she's experiencing her Iron Man moment, where the mechanism in the Iron Man or the Iron Heart suit freezes up, and she loses oxygen, and all that kind of stuff. So
she's got to take the drone out. It's so clever. It is very Tony Stark-esque. I'd say it's very close to some moments we had in Iron Man 1 way back.
It's on purpose, right? And it's nice to show that actually she doesn't have combat experience, so she would get knocked out and she would get taken. So I think that's all fine. I don't know. I just thought that there'll be more support from the is it the Dora Milaje?
Yeah,
Dora Milaje.
Okoye, and she's going toe to toe with like 4 of these things. She essentially, what looks like she's killed them, and then all of a sudden they're back to life again.
Nope, but I don't explain that either. Sorry, Dan. I should say I have done my research, couldn't find it. They call it Talokan or Talokan.
Talokan
is the underwater kingdom. In the comics, they call it Atlantis. Is tit for tat, it's whatever. But yeah, the technical speak is in the MCU words are Talokan. Yeah, I don't never explain how these beings who get, skewered by spears end up coming back to life, but they do.
Vibranium spears. I mean, they're not exactly blunt, are they?
No.
These things are sharp. They are.
Feel it. But I mean, I think that's my only, I guess, gripe with that scene is that, to be fair, um, Okoye does a fantastic job of protecting everyone, and then
Mm.
it's kind of cheating to then say, "Yeah, but we're alive again, so tough shit." I don't know, but it's a good show to just to illustrate just how powerful they are, and you really do get a sense that actually they're very well matched, aren't they?
Yeah.
The Wakandans and the Talokans.
So Okoye returns back to Wakanda, and Ramonda is not happy.
She is bitching.
She is fuming cumin because, of course, Okoye has failed to protect Shuri. Shuri's been taken off underwater. So Ramonda strips her of her title as General of the Dora Milaje and seeks out Nakia, who has been.
I don't go on. Sorry. Yeah,
She's just living her best life in Haiti since
she's loving it.
Thanos' attack on Wakanda.
But my only issue is, Dan, would Queen Ramonda really have done that, given that Okoye's done so much for her family, and for the nation of Wakanda? She's been in every single significant battle. She has. Oh, she used the argument of, "Well, you backed Killmonger when he usurped a family and we went into hiding," and I kind of get that, but he kind of also did have a rightful heir or challenge to the throne because he was the blood right. But anyway, I kind of get that, but it kind of feels like she was holding on to that. That moment to say, actually, you know what, fuck you, I'm not going to support you anymore, and I haven't forgotten. I don't know whether she would have been that dismissive of her. Yeah, you're going to be upset that your daughter gone missing and she was in her care, but they are also quite a formidable adversary. And look at what she's done for the family. It's not like she would have given her up. She it came at quite a cost. I'm not sure. Just it seemed a bit too severe, but
Yeah. Do you think
it is what it is?
grief sort of played into it? She's lost T'Challa, and maybe there's that element that she could lose Shuri as well.
Yeah, and there's also some 100%, and there is also someone that haven't been matched before, who's threatening their existence. So yeah, I guess it all plays a part. Just I don't know. I remember watching it thinking that I can understand perhaps where it's coming from. I just don't believe it, either from the character or the motivation. But hey, she's sidelined, and as you say, she goes to Nakia, who we haven't seen for quite some time now, and yeah, she's been teaching in Haiti.
So Namor shows Shuri his vibranium-rich underwater kingdom of Talokan, which he has protected for centuries from discovery by the world.
And this gave quite the feeling of Avatar, don't you think?
Yeah.
As you're going through the city, which is beautiful, by the way. It's a lovely imagining of what an underwater city was like. It's not people walking on pavements; they are literally swimming in around the reeds and playing and selling goods. And whereas in a lot of the comics, they're walking on the ground. Well, why would you when you're in the water? You'd float and stuff like that. But as you're going through, you've got the lovely colours and the blue, the skin, and that's where I think where there's similarity to Avatar. But it definitely gave those vibes off. Or was that just me, Dan? What do you reckon?
Yeah. No, it was like its own world. It didn't sort of feel, I don't know. It's hard to describe. Like it didn't sort of feel out of place in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but it had its own feel.
Yeah, I agree. I
That's
think
the
in
only way I
itself
can
is
describe
a really fantastic thing to say when you're 30 films in. God knows how many TV shows. So to say that there's something fresh and feels in keeping, I think is just credit to Ryan Coogler and the rest of the team. But I thought they did very, very well. It was, I wouldn't say believable. Obviously, what we're talking about here, the content isn't, but it definitely felt like it had a home. I do agree.
Yeah. So Namor sort of explains why he's bitter at the surface world, and that's because of the people on the land many, many years ago enslaving the Mayans. Now Namor proposes an alliance with Wakanda against the rest of the world, but threatens to destroy Wakanda first if they refuse.
Mm.
Quite an ultimatum, that. If you don't help me, I'll just come and destroy you. It's fine. So Nakia arrives. So she's it's very James Bond, isn't it? She comes in a little submarine, helps Shuri and Riri escape, but Namor retaliates with an attack against Wakanda, during which Ramonda drowns trying to save Riri Williams.
Yeah, it's quite a another quite severe moment, and that family dropping like flies, Dan.
They really are. We'll talk about this in a minute as well. I'll sort of talk a little bit about Shuri's sort of character development. Anyway, Namor vows to return in a week with his full army, and the citizens of Wakanda relocate to the Jabari Mountains for their safety. Meanwhile, Everett Ross is arrested by his ex-wife and CIA Director Valentina Allegra de Fontaine for secretly exchanging classified intelligence with the Wakandans. Shall we just get this bit out of the way?
Let's roll up our sleeves and let's air some grievances, Dan, because I think I know where you're going with it. We haven't spoken about this, by the way, listener, so I don't know what he's about to say, but I think I roughly know where. But take us away, Dan. What are you going to say?
What was the purpose of Everett Ross in this film?
100%. That is the $1 million question. What value did he bring?
The only thing I can think of is there is something to follow up on this. But in the whole entire film of 10, 15 minutes, what does he do?
He does a lot of walking around. He looks very good in a suit, it must be said. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Because he doesn't really, he doesn't move the story on for the surface dwellers, the people of Earth, does he? Because he's not sharing the information back. He doesn't make any findings and then pass them back to the Wakandans. He's not doing any investigation. They're just telling him stuff. And he's going, oh, that's interesting. Let's not retaliate against the Wakandans. And then his ex-wife goes, well, I bugged those beads, so I know what you're talking about, and I'm going to put you away. That's it. And you're like,
yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, it was that just a way to introduce Valentina?
I genuinely have no idea. Like, what does this bring to the story? And so the only thing I can think of is that somehow this is going to tie into something like Thunderbolts in a year or so. But
it's quite expensive when doing it. Martin Freeman ain't cheap. He would have signed on for the second one off the basis of that. He was quite a large part in the first. He wasn't needed. You could have just had him on the end of a phone call. You could have done like a Sam Jackson.
Yeah.
Just had a fleeting chat, how you doing? Just touching base, or was that you guys? I'm watching this. Don't scream on this. And they go, no, it wasn't us. We'll tell you later. And at the end of the film, they then, I don't know, just very odd, Dan. I agree.
Or you could just pack all those minutes down into a cutscene, which of course we only got one, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah, it's just very odd. I don't get it. Anyway, moving on. After Ramonda's funeral, Shuri uses a remnant of the herb that gave Namor's people their superhuman abilities to reconstruct the heart-shaped herb. So all the success, she recreates it, and then she ingests it, gaining superhuman abilities and meeting Ndajaka, or Killmonger, in the ancestral plane, who urges her to seek revenge.
Great scene, actually. And it is nice to see that character return, because
I wasn't expecting it.
No.
I genuinely was not expecting it. And because she walks in and she goes, "Mother," and as she sort of walks forward more, the camera sort of like pans round, and there he is, Michael B. Jordan. I was like, wow. Like that's
that beautiful specimen of a man just sat there, with that knowing look, just saying, "I know why you're here, and we're very similar, and you need to fuck shit up. Don't go with that whole kind of gallant righteousness. Go take some revenge because they've killed your mother." And you can't argue with him, Dan. Um, look, I was rather hoping that he'd actually come back and be Black Panther, some twist of fate, some multiversal impact. By the way, the multiverse colors were in the background. Do you see in the spirit realm? You might have to see it again, but
Yeah.
it was very purpley, which I know is the colors of
Yes, it
Black
was. It was
Panther, but
purple.
it had the sky haze. It looked very multiversal. I don't know if that's on purpose or whether I'm
Mm.
just reading into it, but I wonder whether there's something there. But either way, he's basically like, no, you were too dissimilar. Don't fight it. Go burn the world because that's what you want to do and that's what you should do.
Yeah. It's a great scene. It's so good. I can't add much to that, but the shock of him being there,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
great.
wow, like that's
And
that's
it's
clever writing.
yeah, and it's very well placed, as you say. It's clever writing because it didn't feel forced. No one was expecting it, and actually, it was a perfect time for him to be there.
Mm.
I think. Um, but after he meets her, then she puts on the suit and then goes to meet the rest of the tribesmen. Um, and they accepted Dan so quickly.
Yeah.
No one said, "Is this right? Should it be in Baku? Should it be anyone else?" I don't know who else is left at this point who'd be worthy. But they just went, yeah, fine. Shuri, you wear it. Why not? You took the herb. We didn't know you were going to do it, but fine, crack on. I don't know. Would
Mm.
they? They've lost two of their leaders in as many years. Very sudden, unexpected. They're at war. They're now refugees in their own country. They're seeking refuge. They're going to be attacked again in a couple of days. They're looking for leadership. Is it going to be Shuri?
And you know what? Out of everyone, M'Baku's the one that's trying to urge for peace,
Hmm.
which I sort of found quite unexpected. Under all those layers, actually,
Quite wise.
he's quite wise. He's
Hmm.
very calm. A phenomenal, powerful presence in Wakanda.
Yeah, I I don't know it might just be character development, and it might be just as a showing of where people were at this point of time of the film. But this childlike, immature, jovial character from the first film ends up being the next leader of the most powerful country on the planet,
Mm,
and they're like, yeah, fine, cool,
happy
nice suit, by the
days.
way. Like,
Yeah.
it is that it? And then they didn't even explain the fact that she fabricated the suit and it was already ready for her to wear.
Mm,
Fine, whatever. I mean, she may have had one, or it could have easily been made on the fly. I don't know. Let's not pick apart too much, but
yeah.
I don't know. They just accept her a bit too quickly. I don't. I don't disagree with the end logic. Just how they got there, I thought was a little bit too too agreeable. But hey, if I was in that situation where I'm about to get flooded again and I've lost people and the royal family have carked it, then yeah, perhaps I just accept the next person's going to
Yeah.
step up to the plate. It wouldn't want to be me, right? Because you're about to go into war with a powerful adversary. I will want to put on that suit. So fair play, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, sure, he's hell bent on vengeance on Namor. But in the preparation for battle, Ao assumes the position of General of the Dora Milaje. Shuri bestows the Midnight Angel armor upon Okoye.
Mm.
We sort of briefly touched on this, and I'm sure we're going to talk about it again in a minute.
No, right now, Dan.
You want
It
to talk
looks
about it right now?
terrible.
It looks like
They look bad.
it looks weird.
And Riri's her armor. I mean, it looks like look.
It looks like something out like those hentai animated
Yeah.
sort of
We're,
Japanesey things.
let's just be very clear, Dan, before we get ourselves hated by quite a lot of people. I want to just make this very clear for our listeners. We're not against that art style because I know that anime is not even niche now; it is mainstream,
In defense, I used to watch Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z.
very old
Phenomenal.
school, and I used to too. Just for some reason, what was I watching on ITV or Channel 4? They never used to show it in sequence, so I used to get out of sequence. So I never really understood why person A was fighting person B, and they're still doing it 5 episodes later. But then I found out that's just Dragon Ball. But then why he was now glowing yellow when he was before white, and anyway, I enjoyed it too. So, well, we're not saying, listener, no complaints here, no hate mail, no bitch on social media. We're not saying we don't like it. It's just it's not really tonally in keeping with this.
No.
And my issue with the Midnight Angel armor and the Ironheart armor is it looks very almost like Power Rangers.
Yeah. Oh, it does.
And I'm not there for that. It doesn't look right, Dan. Like
it didn't look great. That's my only criticism really of Riri Williams is the armor. Just, I think I was kind of expecting like the comic book red and gold.
Yeah,
but no, it was like red and black with a bit of blue. And
it should be the rough edges. She's okay. She's not now in the garage in the warehouse, but it looked okay. So the Midnight Angel armor for me looked like the baddie guy. What's his name? Manta Ray from Aquaman.
Yeah.
The arch nemesis with the big bulbous head and big eyes, and she's got these strange tentacle kind of dreadlock things. But fine, if you get past that. But then if you look at Ironheart, and it's just, I don't know, Dan. Like it doesn't look. I think the issue is I'm trying to articulate my thoughts and not doing it. There's too many things filing around in my synapses. The issue is Rescue, which ended up being worn by Pepper Potts twice, in effect, in the MCU, is really, in my argument, in my mind, what Ironheart should look like.
Yeah. Yeah, easily.
It's a slender, form-fitting build of an advanced piece of armor that isn't one for Iron Man, but doesn't look too dissimilar because Riri creates it in his image. What we've got on here is a flying Power Ranger, which has got very smooth edges, very large exoskeleton, like mechanized suit style. Dan, do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's not the comics. I'm not going to be one of those people saying, it's not the comics, therefore don't like it. It's different. I'm not saying that. I'm not one of those Neanderthals. I'm just saying it looks very odd. Very odd and very out of place. Yeah. I didn't like it. And we talked about it, I think, off air. And I messaged my mate Ian, who I've seen most of the films with now. And I said, it's Power Rangers. And I don't know whether there's something going on with the CGI teams where they're outsourcing. There were messages previously on the message boards about how no one wants to work for Disney Marvel because they're pushed, they're pummeled, and they're working through the night and the day, and they're tight deadlines, and the quality could suffer. We've seen that potentially with She-Hulk, and we've seen that I think potentially now. Well, we saw that with Black Widow, but you give that the benefit of the doubt because it was made during COVID and that was turned upside down and managed to get something out still. And that was a feat. They did really well in spite of having to do this during a global fucking pandemic. So I'm not saying that the odds weren't against them and they didn't deliver something against the odds. I am. But the CGI was terrible in that film. And again, we're seeing it here, and it looks like a worrying recurring trend that it looks like they're really cutting the corners when you're sat in that front row and you can see warts and all in high definition on your reclining, beautiful seats in View Cinema, wherever you watch your films. It doesn't look good. And, if you look at Iron Man 1, the much maligned, but I still love it, Iron Man 2, they look good today.
Yeah, they hold up.
Yeah. They hold on. There's some scenes, okay, where I think in Iron Man 1 where Tony's walking away from the tank and it's all CGI, looks a bit ropey, but it still looks good. You compare that scene, which was 14, 16 years ago now, whatever it was, to that suit that Riri had. It's gone backwards. And I don't like it, Dan, and I'm worried. I'm worried because you're not going to make a prosthetic. You're not going to actually make the suit. So if we don't have that, we have to rely upon this. That's not a great starting point. I am slightly worried.
I mean, we've talked about phase 4 being having a lot crammed in.
Mm.
And is this project of the multiverse saga becoming a victim of the success of the MCU, that they're trying to do more now? And I think it was, I can't remember, I think it was the She-Hulk episode you were talking about,
Oh,
the
it's
people that
quotable,
work,
guys.
you were talking about, the people that work behind on the CGI and stuff. They're paid well, but they're overworked,
Yeah,
and they're set to, deadlines. What we're getting isn't great.
I don't think so. But arguably, and yeah, perhaps it is a victim of success, Dan, because as we're talking, we have got Ironheart series out next year.
Yeah, we
Is it
have.
May? Was it or June? I want to say it's not long. So she would have done back to back filming. They've got to be able to hit the ground running with that cat and make us care for her when she is in peril in the subsequent Avengers film. So look, they're doing everything right, but I wonder whether they've got to ramp these characters up so quickly because you've got the end game scenario. Where do you go after end game? It ain't phase 4 because that was a pile of crud. I'm generalizing. There's some good things in there, but as we know, or you would have heard in the previous episode, phase 4 just wasn't quite up to scratch. But that's because you finished phase 3 on Endgame.
Yeah,
you got to build for your next Endgame because you got to go big or go home. So they've got to build her and they've got to do it quick and they've got to do it believably. But I don't know, Dan. I think they cut too many corners on that one, personally.
yeah, didn't really give a. It sounds bad. I myself felt like she was sort of shoehorned into this film. You probably didn't really need her, to be honest. The scientist could have been anyone.
No, 100%.
It could have been anyone, but you've shoehorned in a character, and like you said, I don't feel like I care for her much yet.
No,
good character. Don't get me wrong, but does she really bring anything to Wakanda Forever as a film overall?
Silch. Standalone, I would have cared because I would have had more time with the character in that TV show. Almost like an origin story. It's a bit late now, but an origin story. Peter Parker, no one knows about him, and he's working in incognito. And by day, he's a kid at MIT or in a high school, obviously in Midtown High. But for Riri, she is at MIT, of course, where MJ is. If they share the same universe, and there's a question there if they do, but if they do, she's there with her now. And yeah, she could be. We could learn and see her struggles as a student and the legacy as the comics. Again, sound like the comic Neanderthal here, but you could have her struggling with that legacy of Iron Man and Tony Stark. But instead, they chose to have her, yes, working out of the university, and yes, being a scientist. But I think it'd make more sense, perhaps, to have the scientist from the Thor films.
Yeah,
have him behind it. Although he's looking at astronomy, but you know what I mean. Like you could choose anyone, but you choose this girl, and they refer to her as a scientist, and she's not a scientist. She's an engineer.
Yeah,
I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right, Dan. I don't think it really left us in a positive light with her caring one way or another. And I think with me, a sour taste in my mouth with that armor, it just didn't look good.
Oh, we've segued quite a lot into that section.
Yeah, and look, I'm bitching. I do like this film, guys and girls. You'll hear that in a minute. But there are some bits what I just thought was a bit too much.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, no film these days is without criticism. It can be the best film in the world, but it won't be perfect.
Not with 29 films behind it, Dan. You can't possibly, that again, that legacy, that 12, 13 years, you can't then go, that was brilliant. Because you've got so much to compare it to.
Yeah.
It is a victim of his own success. I think you're right there. It really is.
So crack it on, going into the final battle. They use a seafaring vessel, and the Wakandans lure Namor and his warriors to the surface as a battle ensues. Very different to the usual final battles we get. This is basically on a boat
Kind of.
in the middle of the water with some islands.
Kind of, Dan. But have you seen Aquaman?
Oh yeah, good point.
You know,
Yeah, I've only seen it once. It was ages ago. But
it's
yeah,
1-for-1 Aquaman
fair
end
point.
scene.
It's a fair point. I'll let you have that one.
Why not fight the people from the water on the land, or perhaps in the snow mountains where water freezes, Dan? Don't know. No, let's just take this fight to them. Fine. Tonally, revenge, whatever. I'm picking it apart. You know what I mean? Doesn't make sense. It was done by Jason Momoa 3 years before. I think marginally better. But yes, they draw them out. Whilst that's happening, Shuri takes Namor. They have a bit of a fight in the air, isn't it? She takes
Yeah,
ship.
they duke out in the aircraft where she has some powerful heaters turned on, and he's like, "Oh fuck, I'm drying out," and then they crash on a desert beach, and they carry on. It's quite a vicious fight.
Yeah.
It's not something I would expect from an MCU
No,
film.
no.
Like, she's digging claws into him, she's scratching, he impales her with the spear.
Would you think he's game over?
Yeah.
She's properly she's skewered, and it is visceral, and we haven't seen that. I think that kind of tone for some time, at least not since
I'd probably say
Infinity
War.
Yeah.
It's really gritty.
Good scene though. It's a really good scene.
Yeah. Shuri gains the upper hand, but realizes the similarities between their paths and implores Namor to yield, offering him a peaceful alliance. Now, in the last episode, in the spoiler free, I said this is a moment that we hadn't seen in the MCU, or at least for a long time. This is the first time I can recall a main villain not carking it.
Yeah, true.
I genuinely can't remember, because Marvel in the cinematic universe, they seem to have this habit of they never really let the villain get away. I mean, Thanos, sure, okay. Every villain has carked it, whether it's Malekith the fucking elf, Crossbones, oh yeah, all right, he escapes, but then he carks it in a film later. Oh God, my mind's gone blank trying to think about it.
You got 28 others. I mean, you're right, Dan. I never thought of it like that. He's the only one that survives, but he is the founding member of the Avengers in the comics. You can't scrub him the moment you mention someone who's been around for hundreds of years in that film. I was going to wait to the end, but as we're on them all, do you think he should be added to the misunderstood villains episode?
100%.
Rogue gallery. Do you reckon?
Yeah, 100%. Again, what makes a good villain? And it's generally because something bad has happened to them, and they just want a bit of revenge.
You can understand it. The flashback, I think, was very well handled. And as a little boy, he sees his people being slaughtered to the Westerners. Well, not the Westerners, I guess, from the East, but, from the European plunderers. You can definitely understand why he's distrustful, and especially they're trying to steal their vibranium. It does make sense that he's really looking to secure their future. So I think he's a great addition to that lineup. And I think he's one of the better, well-rounded villains. We've had some dodgy ones in the past. We'll talk about those in the episodes and the reviews. Namor, I get. He cares for his people. He looks after them. He's seen what can happen when humans don't take lightly to mutants. Why wouldn't you behave that way? So I get it. I understand and I acknowledge it. He's a great character and it's very well written. And again, it's very well played.
Yeah.
Very well played by Tenok.
Just go back to my MC villains that have all carked it. Let's. I'll go for a quick list. Ultron dead. Loki died several times. Hela dead. Red Skull on a planet somewhere because, yeah, that happened.
But why not? But pretty much dead.
Yeah, Ronan the Accuser dead. Ego dead. Malekith dead. Justin Hammer.
He's coming back for Armor Wars.
Yes, no, he's still alive. It's the other one I'm thinking of. Aldrich Killian dead.
Whiplash.
Ulysses Claw, all right, he survived in Ultron, but he's dead. Crossbones, dead. A lot of dead villains, basically.
Yeah.
And a lot of good ones. A lot of good villains, brown bread.
Indeed. And I think this is where we're probably going to reflect in a minute about where it leads or leaves, shall I say, these superpowers in the MCU. But
yeah,
you're not going to get rid of this character at this stage. Far too powerful. Really enjoyed him.
Yeah. Well, Namor accepts defeat and the battle ends. Now, earlier I said hold that thought. Okay, so we get a scene where Namor's cousin Namora clearly upset with Namor's surrender, but Namor reassures her that their new alliance will allow them to conquer the surface world one day. So, of course, the world have got beef with Wakanda for not sharing the vibranium, and they're obviously going to come after Wakanda. And you can always sort of see where, maybe the third Black Panther is going to go, and Namor's going to use that as leverage and go to war with the surface world. And that was a fun bit of digesting there as I was writing my notes on Saturday, full of cold, snot dribbling everywhere, and that was just one of my thoughts as I was writing those notes. Riri Williams returns to MIT. She has to leave her suit behind, thank God.
Yeah.
While Okoye rescues Everett Ross from captivity. Again, what Ross was up to,
Why?
Who knows? Exactly. Yeah. He's all right. He's don't drop the soap.
Yeah, quite.
So Shuri plants more heart-shaped herbs to ensure the future of the Black Panther mantle. In Shuri's absence, M'Baku steps forward to challenge for the throne. And Shuri visits Nakia in Haiti, where she burns her funeral ceremonial robe in accordance with Ramonda's wishes, allowing herself to finally grieve T'Challa. Now, this is the bit that did get me. And of course, you get loads of little flashbacks between her and T'Challa. And trying to explain this to my other half, when I came home to cinema, I could just feel myself sort of welling up again. Like goddamn cinema. There's me bawling my eyes out and the lights go up as soon as the credits start to roll. I was like, fuck, recover, Dan, recover. Don't let people see you cry. Don't let them see you.
Because Letitia Wright, I like to believe she was legitimately upset. I don't think acting, she could have acted it, but I don't think she was. I think she was legitimately upset. And they showed a very muted, audibly muted kind of montage of Shuri and T'Challa together. And it's almost like a final goodbye to that character.
Yeah.
And it was tough. It was really tough to watch. And as you say, as the lights went up, again, you could hear a pin drop, and it was very, very emotive, I think, at least in the show that we saw. And that was a good couple of weeks after it being out in the cinema.
Yeah. I'd even say, the emotion that goes through the funeral procession at the start of the film, I'd probably say the emotion that's probably very raw as well. You can't act that stuff out. We've talked about the immeasurable loss of Chadwick Boseman as a person. This is the guy that fought for equal pay with his co-star in 21 Bridges.
Yeah.
Oh, I've forgotten her name now. I'm just going to quickly Google. But
Yeah, I
yeah,
mean, he was whilst doing that, he's a wonderful guy. And obviously was well thought of amongst his peers. You know, whenever he was doing the press rounds, the rest of the actors in the MCU, everyone was always highly appreciative of him and the way he presented himself.
it was Sienna Miller. So he
Mm,
actually fought for equal pay for her. You know,
really
phenomenal.
good
You know
guy.
what a guy. So yeah, I do think it was his passing was sort of felt across the entire world. You know, my other half can't watch Black Panther without getting emotional. I mean, as soon as she sees this, she's going to be in bits. You know,
Yeah.
if it made me cry, you're going to be a hell of a lot worse than I am. So of course, we only got one post credit scene,
We did.
which was mid credits, where Shuri learns that Nakia and T'Challa had a son named Toussaint. Hopefully, I've done that some sort of justice. It's a bit French. Nakia had been raising in a secret, far from the pressure of the throne. So Toussaint reveals his Wakanda name is T'Challa.
Cue some more tears rolling down my face.
Mm. It's a stunning moment of gentle grace, is what I've put in my notes, which
Ooh,
we rarely see in the MCU.
how poetic. Yes, I agree, Dan.
My only gripe with this scene, everyone knew about this kid apart from Shuri.
Yeah.
Your goddamn sister didn't know about this kid.
Yep.
But yeah,
Well, I mean, just before her mother dies and floods, tells Shuri, oh, I've got something to tell you. So she was about to, but yeah, everyone knew but her. There we go.
and she just brushes it off, like, oh, I've got a nephew.
And he's
But
now the
yeah,
rightful heir to the throne. So
so
you're
where's
being
that leave
challenged at
Shuri?
home. M'Baku's challenging you. You've got the throne, and he's the rightful heir. So who are you now?
Mm.
Interesting.
But yeah, nice touch there.
Yeah.
It does round off. I mean, the film quite nicely. It almost sort of gives you almost like a sense of hope, I guess.
Yeah, the next generation for sure.
Mm. So on to the critical response. Our favourite, Rotten Tomatoes, reported an approval rating of 84%, with an average rating of 7.2 out of 10. Now, this is based on 380 reviews. The site's critics' consensus reads, a tribute that satisfyingly moves the franchise forward. Black Panther Wakanda Forever marks an ambitious and emotionally rewarding triumph for the MCU. On Metacritic, the film has a weighted average score of 67 out of 100, based on 62 critics, indicating generally favourable reviews. Next up, we've got audiences polled by CinemaScore, gave the film an average grade of A on an A+ to F scale, while Post-Track reported audience members gave the film an overall positive score of 93%, with 85% saying that they would definitely recommend it. Now,
I don't disagree with any of that, actually, Dan. I think that's spot on.
Now, this is the one that we gave quite a raw review in our walk back to Old Portsmouth. So Campbell, Empire Online, gave the film a 4 out of 5 stars, stating that the film stands out from a somewhat formulaic era of Marvel movies, held together by its compelling sense of place and by acting as a passionate eulogy for Chadwick Boseman, and feeling that it was imaginative and grounded, which makes the tilt of the usual CG-dominated spectacle a little jarring. Now, Campbell lauded the performances of Letitia Wright, Winston Duke, Angela Bassett, and Coel, and described Huerta's character as a highlight, an imaginative adaptation of the veteran comics character, one who here speaks truth with convincing venom. So I guess that leads us quite nicely into overall thoughts.
Mm.
I can't really add much to the spoiler-free review. A lot of
No.
credit does go to the cast, and some of the acting is so powerful that it carries it. It carries the film quite well, and it is a wonderful, heartfelt tribute to Chadwick Boseman. Also, I've got to give a shout out to the music and the score.
Yeah.
Absolutely fantastic. Ludwig Göransson returned as the composer. Now, here's a fun fact. At the 13th Hollywood Music in Media Awards, Lift Me Up won Best Original Song in a feature film, while Göransson was nominated for Best Original Score in a sci-fi film, with No Woman, No Cry and All Right nominated for song score, which was in the trailer. And I suppose, just to round off my overall thoughts, a little bit of character development on Shuri's journey. I'd say it was somewhat akin to the MCU Spider-Man, and it fleshes the character out. She is a tragic superhero. Hear me out. So naturally, that comes with a strong helping of tragedy. So let's talk about Peter Parker for a second. Begins with Tony's death. Now it continues in Spider-Man No Way Home with Aunt May's death, and culminates in everyone he ever loved losing their memories of him at that film's conclusion. And he has to do all of that whilst refraining from taking vengeance on the Green Goblin. He's ready to kill him. If we rewind back to our episode, we talk about he's about to impale him with his glider. Black Panther takes us to heart in its presentation of Shuri, who begins just a few years older than Peter. Well, she's essentially an adult, overseeing important technological development as her part of her royal duties. She retains a youthful sense of playfulness and fun. So let's rewind a bit. This comes out in her interactions with T'Challa, whom she clearly takes delight in teasing, as well as her mother. And she's definitely a sidekick, as evidenced by her status as Black Panther's Q division in the first film. Now, this changes in Wakanda Forever, in the same way that Peter's life changes in No Way Home. She has to grapple not only with T'Challa's death, but her mother Ramonda's death, and yet simultaneously set aside her personal emotional needs for the sake of her people. She concludes the film bereft of family like Peter, and yet fully committed to her new life as a superhero.
Makes sense to me. I never really thought of it like that, but yeah, they most of the characters in the MCU step up, with the exception, I guess, of Thor, maybe step up to the mantle and put themselves on the line, as Steve Rogers says, puts himself down on the wire for the greater good, often at their own personal expense or through, as you say, through tragedy. Dan, and I never looked at it like that in terms of the similarities again with Peter, but yeah, they definitely resonate. I think it's a good observation.
It basically came out of my notes because I was having an argument with someone on social media, but here we are. Nothing changes, Alex. I'm always duking out with these idiots on Facebook.
You've got to spar from time to time. I mean, for me, I've gone through the stuff that I'm not happy with. I did enjoy it. Look, I think it's a solid, if I had to put a number on it, 7 out of 10. It was unique. It was different. It felt like a natural successor to what is a challenging follow-up to the original. And the original I really did like. That was different. It was fresh. It was a new take. They managed some really tough storylines. Did they have too much on their plate? Possibly. Did they get some things wrong at the end? Most definitely. But ultimately, did they have to do all the right bits I was looking for, which is the casting, as you say, the music, the soundtrack, the storyline. In the main, the CGI, yes, they did. And it was different enough, again, that it was familiar, but it moved the whole MCU franchise forward. Yeah, I liked it. Again, it won't make my top five. I'm not even sure now it make my top 10, but I think it's probably somewhere in the top third of my rankings of the MCU films,
Yeah, for sure.
top 15, and that's good enough, I think, at this stage.
So the final battle scene, it's so fierce. It's got to be up there in terms of some of the battles we've had,
Yeah,
for sure. And I just put in my notes as well. It just rounds off a cluttered phase 4 quite nicely.
it does. Yeah. That's my only worry though with the what next is are they now going to forget all these things when we start talking about the quantum realm
Mm,
and the Avengers films? I mean, all these Phase 4 films have kind of continued or they've started up new threads. Are they kind of going to be forgotten because then the big bad comes along and everyone's united again? Or are they going to be able to juggle both? There will be inevitably a conflict on the surface world where you're going to have superheroes all over the place now. So if Namor goes to war with the world, that's an Avengers level threat. Well, the Avengers are
yeah,
going to be busy, but there's going to be other people who are going to take him on. That's a big film in itself, but that hasn't been slated for release, at least not in phase 5 or as we know, phase 6 so far. But I mean, Feige can pull something out of the bag and sure he will. I don't know. This is the better ones of the phase 4.
yeah, agreed.
But they've started now a number of different threads, which I'm really concerned down for the second time in this episode. And I hate to say it, I don't know whether they can then deliver on because you've got so much there. I was just going to forget about it when it comes to the next Avengers level big bad.
Yeah, because when we talk about phase 1 to phase 3, it's all very linear. It all sort of links into each other somehow.
Yeah.
Whereas phase 4 has felt very cluttered. And you sort of have to start to guess with what's what.
There was no Wong, though.
No, there wasn't any Wong.
Which is interesting.
So just to sort of round this episode off, I keep coming back to this question. Should Chadwick Boseman have been recast? Because this is such a big thing on social media. You've got the people complaining, saying the film was shit, they should have recast Chadwick Boseman, blah, blah, blah. So before you give me your final decision on this, I'm pretty sure you'll probably sort of line up with where I'm at. There's a bit of background.
Yeah.
So, sadly on August 28th, 2020, Chadwick Boseman died of colon cancer. And Ryan Coogler actually stated that he was unaware that Chadwick Boseman was ill. And he'd spent the last year preparing, imagining and writing words for him to say in the film that we weren't destined to see. Sadly, Chadwick had become quite thin with his illness in weeks prior to his death and had been prepared to begin gaining the weight back in September 2020 ahead of filming in March 21. Feige and other executives at Marvel Studios were also unaware of Boseman's illness. Now, according to The Hollywood Reporter, industry observers felt Disney could recast the role, but that might generate a fan outcry and prompt comparisons between actors. And it happens. People still compare Mark Ruffalo with, what's his name?
Ed Norton.
It happens. It's definitely a thing. In mid-November, executive producer Victoria Alonso said a digital double of Boseman would not be created for the film and added that Marvel was taking their time to work out what they were going to do next and how. Now, in December 2020, the film's release date was moved back to July the 8th, 2022. Now, of course, that got pushed back even further later on. But here we are. Feige also confirmed that the role of T'Challa would not be recast. The big man has spoken and said the sequel would explore the world of and characters of the first film as a way to honour the legacy of Boseman that Boseman helped build. And he said this: Chadwick Boseman was an immensely talented actor and an inspirational individual who affected all of our lives professionally and personally. His portrayal of T'Challa, the Black Panther, is iconic and transcends any iteration of the character in any other medium from Marvel's past. And it's for that reason that we will not recast the character. So with all that knowledge, Alex, would you recast Chadwick Boseman?
No.
Agreed. I just think it would do an injustice.
But I would have used the multiverse to introduce Killmonger.
Yeah.
But what we got was well fitted for Boseman's legacy, handled very well. I don't think anyone can challenge that. And I think if they did anything other than what they did, even I'd be up in arms.
Yeah. Yeah, no, agreed. So I think we can both agree that Chadwick Boseman should not have been recast.
Yeah.
And it was the right decision. A little bit on the future. There is a possible sequel on the horizon, Alex. So last month, Coogler and Feige were revealed to have discussed a potential third Black Panther film. Well, you've already got my predictions for that one.
Yeah.
And of course, Ironheart. So in November 2022, Moore stated that Disney Plus series Ironheart would serve as a direct sequel to Wakanda Forever, with Dominique Thorne returning to reprise her role as Riri Williams. And it is set to premiere next year. So not long to wait. I think it's May. I want to say it's around May, because we've got Secret Invasion coming, haven't we? And is it February for Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania?
Yes.
That's
next.
I shouldn't know all this stuff.
It is up next for sure. It's Phase 5.
It is. Well, that rounds up for our review of Wakanda Forever.
It does.
Have you got anything to add, Alex?
No. Just guys, go watch it if you either go to cinema with your reclining seats and your popcorn, or a Disney Plus, which is probably by the time you listen to this, just around the corner, or it's already available. So go give it a watch and go enjoy yourselves. It's a good film.
It really is, and take some tissues. You know, if it can get to me, the guy with the heart of stone, it will get to anyone. But of course, we want your thoughts on the film, and of course, we've got some other things to come up.
Oh yes,
that we're going to be recording. So if you want to get in touch, we're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok on @TheTopicPod. And if you follow any of those, there is a link in the description which will take you through to Anchor, where you can leave us a voice message like some of our previous listeners have done so and be a part of the show. And if you want to email us, we've got Gmail, which is on the top podcast @gmail.com. And Alex, we're slowly rolling out on YouTube and we've got a WordPress.
We have, yeah. Every week we are releasing 2 episodes of our back catalogue. So you can go stream, like, and subscribe on YouTube. So there's literally no excuse to not stream and listen to your favourite podcast. And we're on WordPress. So we've got a website. So it's ontopicpodcast.wordpress.com. On there, we've got our ugly mugs, our bios. We've got a whole back catalogue. So if you don't have a particular streaming podcast platform of preference, all the P's, then you can stream it there as well. And you can sign up to our newsletter. So when there's a new episode, be in the know, be notified as soon as it drops. And yeah, it's all there for you to go and have a look at your leisure.
What have we got coming up, Alex? It's December. It's nearly the end of the year.
It is. We've got a couple. It's always a busy time, isn't it, for us around December? So we're probably going to have a Christmas episode, which may or may not be a film-related one around David Harbour. We shall see. But we'll definitely have something of that ilk. We talk about the world's most terrible Christmas film. Is that
we've been
gauntlet laid down?
We've been challenged by our listeners, Dan, to review some really bad Christmas films. I've already got one for you, Alex. I watched it the weekend. It's all right. It's got Lindsay Lohan in it. It's on Netflix. It's an hour and a half long. It's called Falling for Christmas.
Oh.
And it follows the same Same formula as any Christmas film.
The usual Hallmark
Yeah,
criteria, right?
it is one of those. I genuinely quite enjoyed it.
So bad it's good.
It's so bad that it's good. I've got an app called Letterboxd, so I can go on there. It was recommended to me by one of my friends, and you can just basically go on and review films. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars.
Okay. I might have to go take a look. But yeah, well, either way, we'll have something Christmas themed. We've got our Christmas Day episode where Dan won't be donning the wig. I was going to say. Perhaps you might have a nose prosthetic as you're now the king. So you may be giving the king's speech, which just sounds weird as you say it out loud. And then we've got shortly on after that, Hot on the Heels will be our most anticipated.
Yes, some of my favourite episodes to look forward to. I really look forward to those. So keep an eye on those socials, see when we're going to be recording these films and get involved. We want your thoughts at the end of the day. You don't want to hear us just rambling away for an hour and a half or whatever it is these days.
Yeah, get in touch, let us know and be part of the show.
Indeed. But for another week, I'm going to go get my Power Rangers exoskeleton suit on. I've been Dan.
And I'm going to go for a leisurely swim. I'm Alex.
I don't know why I'm posing because no one can see me. We'll see you next time.